We've reached an important year for the Miami Hurricanes and Mario Cristobal, a year which follows a 5-7 season and one in which they have goals of being better than they were in the past few years. We'll take a look at 10 players that will make that happen, get them back to a bowl game, and then figure out how much further they have to go to get to the top of the ACC. We start with a transfer in Matt Lee, the UCF transfer, who comes in to play center, has already solidified himself a role in this Miami offense, and that's impressive given that Cristobal is so hands-on with the offensive line. Matt Lee is one of the best centers in the AAC in his time with the Knights. Now he's hoping to do the same thing in the ACC to help open up running lanes and protect his quarterback at his new school. Another guy that comes in from the transfer portal via Alabama is Javian Cohen, and he'll line up right next to Matt Lee, and it'll be interesting to see how this tandem works. These are two very talented players, two big players. You'll see the size jump out on film, and that's going to be a big way to set the tone for a Miami. It's going to be a big way for Miami to get the ball rolling, to get the run established, to protect the quarterback. And this is an offense that needs to take a step forward after being fairly poor in 2022. The defense was the better group between the two, but there were also some concerns. This is a group that finished 103rd in yards per play. So bringing in a guy like Francisco Moigoa is a huge addition from Washington State, a player that can help elevate this group, the linebacker group. It could use a little bit of help, and he's a guy that can help in that regard. It looks like the weakness of the defense will probably be the linebacker group, so you'll wait and see what happens there. The front set, the defensive line, and the secondary appear to be just fine. One of those guys in the secondary is another UCF transfer in Devontae Brown. He is a player with a huge upside at 6'2", 185 pounds. He also brings good speed to the position. So he has the ability to run with guys downfield. He has the ability to hang with anyone that might challenge him deep. And he is someone who I think is still on the rise in terms of what he can do in terms of his talent. He was a very good player for UCF, broke up a lot of passes in his time with the Knights. And now Miami is hoping that he adds to his secondary that is loaded with talent. Flipping to the offensive side of the ball, still an underrated player is Henry Parrish, a running back for Miami that has been a steadying force for this team. And there's been a lot of talent in that running back room, and there still is a ton of talent in that room. But Henry Parrish so far has proven to me to be the most reliable player in that group, from staying on the field to being efficient when he gets the football in his hands. You can utilize him as a runner, you could utilize him in the passing attack. That's something that'll be really fun to watch if you're a Miami fan, is how do they utilize him more? And with this new offense under Shannon Dawson, what is it going to look like for him? What is his role going to be, and how does he continue to be efficient when he gets the football in his hands? A guy that should benefit the most from Dawson's arrival is Tyler Van Dyke. This is a player who took a step back last year, and obviously injuries played a role in that. But Tyler Van Dyke at his peak was considered a top 10 NFL draft prospect. So maybe he gets back to that. You look at what Dawson did with Clayton Tune at Houston. You're hoping Tyler Van Dyke can potentially take that step as well back to where he was before. And it was really exciting to watch Tyler Van Dyke when he was playing at his peak, when he was playing with confidence. And Miami's hoping that he can do that because this is a passing attack that finished 60th last year. So something has to give. This passing attack must take a step forward, and the quarterback position will be where it all starts. Wide receivers obviously have to do their part too. There's a bunch of options from to utilize, but you have to find ways to get those guys the football and give your quarterback a good chance to be successful. We talked about the defense and how good they are up front and on the back end. And one of the players that helps in the front end is Leonard Taylor. You look at what he's done for Miami so far, and I think he could have an even bigger year if this team is taking the step that I think that they can. 10.5 tackles for loss last year, 19 for his career. He's a very disruptive player, a big player at 6'3", 305 pounds, someone who, again, he has done great things for this team. He has done incredible things for this program to be able to continue giving them some solid play. And this is a group that struggled at times, but they also finished 40th in tackles for loss. They finished 19th in sacks. So getting to the quarterback, being disruptive, something that Miami is still very good at. It's just that they need to find a way to take their game to a new level. And linebackers obviously help with that. Some of that has to do with the offense too. If you're asking your defense to do too much, then eventually they're going to get tired. You need your offense to contribute to wins. You need the offense to contribute to these games. But for the time being, you have a defensive front that appears to be solid. Another guy that will join Leonard Taylor is Akeem Mesidor, the former West Virginia transfer. Didn't waste any time getting up to speed and figuring his role. 10 and a half tackles for loss, 7 sacks, a career 25 tackles for loss, 16 and a half sacks. I really like what he does for Miami. He's a disruptive player. He is someone who also commands a bunch of attention, a little bit smaller than Leonard Taylor at 280 pounds, but still a disruptive player. Has a little bit more of that quickness to be more explosive, to get off the ball, beat some blocks, maybe with a quick move, a finesse move instead of a power move. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. They have a good tandem at defensive tackle that could play a huge role, and they're gonna make the offensive line better by pushing them to elevate their game as well. They also have a tandem on the back end of the defense that is one of the best in college football. James Williams comes in at 6'5", 215 pounds, and that size is something that has caught the eye of the NFL for a couple of years now. Whether or not he can get his game to be in the NFL is still the question. He's shown flashes at times, but I think that there's been some consistency issues. And really, is he going to play safety at the next level? Will teams just move him up to linebacker? I think that Miami would be wise to try and utilize him in multiple spots. And he's a talented player where he can play, he can be solid no matter where you put him. It's just a matter of where's his comfort level and how efficient and how consistent can he be. But at that size and what he's done so far for this team, there's no reason why you can't see a team with James Williams be successful. A defense, especially this defense, take a step forward because again, this secondary really talented, but they finished 79th last year in passing. So defending the pass still kind of a little bit of a struggle. So that's something to keep an eye on. A guy that joins him had a huge breakout year last year was Cameron Kinchens. 6 interceptions was the big note for him. You look at he's one of the best in picking off passes, being able to create turnovers, getting the ball back to his offense. That'll be something to keep an eye on for this defense. And he and James Williams give Miami two of the better safeties in college football. The talent is there for Miami. There's no question about that. There's no reason to doubt that they can beat some of these teams. There's no doubt that they have the talent to compete with some of these bigger teams like the Clemsons and the Florida States. This comes down to cohesion. It comes down to competitiveness and consistency. So you bring in some new talent on the offense and defense side of the ball. You also bring in a new offensive coordinator. So, what does that mean for this team this year? I don't think that you're contending for an ACC championship, but I do think you see a step forward for Miami in 2023.